Hello everyone, and welcome back to Pokeverse. In the first episode of Easter Pokeeggs, we started cracking our very first eggs, discovering some of the hidden secrets scattered throughout the Pokemon world. But as every true trainer knows, exploration never really ends. The Pokemon world is full of small, hidden details, curious references, secret dialogues, strange coincidences, and little mysteries left there by the developers, often right under our noses. And that's exactly the spirit of Easter Pokeeggs, digging through Pokemon games to find those Easter eggs you may have seen hundreds of times without ever truly noticing them. So get ready, because it's time to break open some more Pokeeggs. Let's begin. If you've played Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire, you probably remember the moment when, in order to reach Lava Ridge Town, you first have to take the cable car up Mount Chimney. During the ride, there's a short panoramic animation showing the mountain as the cable car slowly moves upward. It's a scene everyone has seen, but almost nobody has noticed a very curious detail. With a 1 in 64 chance, while the cable car is going up, you can briefly spot a hiker climbing the side of the mountain. He only appears for a few seconds before disappearing, so it's extremely easy to miss. But the most interesting part is something else. According to the game's internal data, it seems that the developers had originally planned another possible event during the cable car ride. In theory, besides the climber, a wild Pokemon could also appear, either Zigzagoon or Poochyena, depending on the version of the game. However, because of a programming error, this event never actually triggers. So yes, even a simple cable car ride hides a small secret that most players have never seen. Now let's move on to one of the most famous mysteries of Generation 3, Mirage Island. If you played the Hoenn games, you might remember the man in Passifidlog Town who looks out at the horizon every day and tells you whether he can see the island or not. The reason is that this island only appears under extremely rare conditions. Every day at midnight, the game generates a random number between 0 and 65,535. If that number matches the first 2 bytes of the personality value of one of the Pokemon in your party, then the island will appear. Now, that might just sound complicated, but if we bring math into the picture, we realize that the odds are incredibly low. Even with a full party of 6 Pokemon, the chance is roughly once every 10,000 days. In other words, many players have never seen this island appear at all. And what can you actually find there? Well, not that much. In the grass, you can encounter only Wynaut, and the island also contains a very rare lychee berry, which for a long time could only be obtained there. So after all that luck, you might start wondering, was it really worth it? Well, in the end, you just find Wynaut, and at that point, the answer can only be one thing: why not? Next, let's move on to the remakes FireRed and LeafGreen. While exploring the Sevii Islands, we learn that one of the Elite Four members, Lorelei, is originally from Faraway Island, and that's exactly where we can visit her house. The first time you go inside, you'll notice something a little unusual. Lorelei collects Pokédolls. At first, there are 6 of them in the room, nothing too strange so far, but there's a hidden detail that very few players know about. Every 25 victories against the Pokemon League, a new doll will appear in her collection. This continues until 8 additional dolls have been added, for a total of 14. Now, the obvious question is, who would be crazy enough to beat the Pokemon League 200 times just to see all the dolls? Well, there's something important to remember. When these games first came out, the internet wasn't what it is today. Information traveled slowly, and there were tons of urban legends surrounding Pokemon games. The famous Mew truck, the rocket that supposedly launched you into space, secret methods to obtain hidden Pokemon that no one had ever seen before. Many of these rumors required ridiculous conditions, so it wasn't that unlikely that someone thought, maybe something special happens if I beat the league 200 times. When it comes to Pokemon, completionism has always been taken very seriously. The final Pokeegg of today involves a mechanic that existed up until Generation 3. Most players remember that the HM cut is used to remove small trees that block your path, but some younger trainers might not know that it could also be used on tall grass. When you used it, the game would clear 3x3 tile area around the player, and if the Pokémon had the ability Hyper Cutter, the area would expand to 6x6 tiles. For veteran players, this feature was fairly well known, but there's a very specific place where this mechanic leads to something interesting: Faraway Island. First though, let's take a step back. Faraway Island is a secret island that can be reached from Lily Cove City if you possess a special item called the Old Sea Map. Thanks to the ship of Captain Stern, you can travel to this mysterious island, and once you arrive, something very special happens. On the island, you can find Mew, but it's not a normal encounter. Mew constantly moves around in the tall grass, almost as if it's playing hide-and-seek with the player, and this is where the curious detail comes in. If you use Cut on the grass, Mew will run away, making it impossible to catch. It's still unclear whether this behavior was intentionally programmed or simply the result of how the mechanic interacts with the event. But the most interesting part of the story is something else. While exploring the island, you can find a sign with a faded message. The text suggests that someone brought Mew there to set it free, hoping that whoever eventually found it would be a kind person, someone capable of treating the Pokémon with care. And the most common theory is that the person who wrote that message was Mr. Fuji, the same man involved in the cloning experiments that led to the creation of Mewtwo. Perhaps after everything that happened, this was his attempt at redemption, freeing Mew in a place far away from scientists and human ambition. And with that, we've cracked open a few more Pokéeggs. Generation 3 is full of small hidden details, incredibly rare events, forgotten mechanics, and little stories that many players never discovered. And that's exactly what makes Pokémon games so fascinating, because even after hundreds of hours of gameplay, there's always another secret waiting to be found. If you enjoyed this episode of Easter Pokeeggs, let me know in the comments, and feel free to tell me what your favorite Generation 3 Easter egg is. I'll see you in the next episode when we crack open more Pokeeggs.